All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Flow Community Livestream. This is a podcast that we try to do weekly. I'm joined today by Martin, who is TrueDev in the chat, Davi Ortega, who's working at Caltech and working on the ETDB project as well as DDX, and Channing, who's been a longtime contributor and member of the podcast and the Flow team. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Flow and what Flow is, just a little bit of an introduction. We're going to talk about OIP and some of the implementations of OIP that exist around the world. And we're going to talk about Alexandria and how Alexandria started, what their plans are for this year. So, without further ado, I'm going to let everyone do a little bit of intro on themselves. Martin, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Like Joey said, I'm TrueDev in the chat. I'm one of the admins. I've been with Flow for about 2 years, and I'm happy to be here.
Hey everybody, I'm Channing. I am for the win in the community. Come check us out on Telegram. That's where you're going to find all the discussion. Everybody's there. And it's easy to talk to the devs. There aren't any other communities out there that I've found where it's so easy to access everybody that's in the know.
I'm Davi, and I think Joey said everything needs to be said about me. I live in, yeah. Anyways, let's do this.
Cool. So let's get started. If you're not aware, Flow is a cryptocurrency, much like Bitcoin, where it's proof of work, which means it's mined by those rows and rows of computers that you see churning out numbers, which solve an equation. What they're doing is they're helping verify transactions on the network. In Bitcoin, transactions are just financially based, so you're trading Bitcoins for other things. All of that happens on the Bitcoin network and is exclusive to the Bitcoin network. In Flow, we have financial transactions, so Flow has some value. It has a market value of about 2.5 cents right now. And on Flow, we added a metadata field. And although that's kind of like a jargony word, metadata just means any type of data that you want to put into the blockchain. So what we're doing is we're building blockchain applications on top of that metadata field, which Bitcoin does not have. And the reason for that is Bitcoin wanted to remain a fully financial system focused on only providing payments, and Flow is going into branching out and using blockchain technology for a little bit more than that. So, what are we doing with Flow right now? Well, Flow has a number of use cases. One is the Open Index Protocol, which is like a decentralized index for any information on the web. So let's say you're a content creator and you make a video. The video title, the description, a link to that video, that'll get stored on the blockchain. And one of the big things about the blockchain is that it has this persistent storage. So things have to stick around for a long time. Otherwise, the miners don't make any money. So they're incentivized to keep the network going. And it's a decentralized network of many peers, sort of like BitTorrent. So when you connect to the BitTorrent network, you're connecting to thousands of nodes around the world of computers that are hosting the same data. And the blockchain is very much like that. So you get redundancy, you get availability, and you get the aforementioned sticking around of data, or data longevity, I would say. So the Open Index Protocol uses those concepts to create an index of data that lives forever. So imagine building a YouTube where all that data, instead of stored on the YouTube servers, is stored in basically a cloud network that no one owns, that is open source, and anyone can contribute to. So there are many people trying to compete with this concept of decentralized YouTube. So what we did with Open Index Protocol is we said, well, the same concept that applies to making a decentralized cloud network for YouTube, we can do that with anything else. So let's do it for land rights records, which is what Medici Land Governance is doing. And they're building a property rights land administration system on top of Flow using the Open Index Protocol. Let's do it with research. So Caltech and Davi have been building this this concept of having electron microscope tomograms and data sets on the blockchain. So everything is open, it's out there, anyone can view it. And we can go through these a little bit later in more detail. We have T0, which recently has been getting a lot of attention in the news. Their plan is to use Flow for the proof of trades. And there are a lot more DApps that exist that are listed in our DApp directory here. So we've got Shared Secret, which is an encryption type app where you use Shamir's secret sharing to go through and put secrets onto the blockchain and kind of split them up into separate parts. Davi actually created this. Do you want to talk a little bit about it, Davi?
Yeah, sure. So I was just so shared secrets. I was studying cryptography. I'm not very well versed on it. I'm not a professional at it, but I was studying a little bit. I thought Shamir shared secrets is one of the most interesting ideas to split a private key. So it gives you the idea that you can actually say how many keys of how like n keys of m keys needed for to decrypt the key. So for example, you can actually make 10 keys and only require any 4 keys to decode the secret. So I decided to make this implementation of the blockchain because it serves a particular purpose. So if you have a secret that has to keep changing, but it cannot change before everybody agrees on it, that's one way to use shared secrets. If you put something that will never going to change, that's a bad idea because you don't want to put encrypted data on the blockchain because things will get eventually broken. But if you something that keeps changing, for example, your Facebook password that should be changing every 6 months or so, you're safe at putting this password on the blockchain. You're using shared secret, and then, for example, splitting the key in 10, requiring 4 of them. So you give 4 of them for yourself, and then you give 1 of them for each one of your other 6 best friends. So then in case something happened to your email or like your storage and you want to recover your Facebook app, you just ask your friends to give their keys, and then you can actually restore it. Or if something happens to you, I mean, hopefully not, but you can still use it, like your friends can come together and then recover your key and then do what needs to be done. So shared secret has the post, so it posts the secret for you, and also the get. So you basically go to the blockchain, get the information for you that it actually was there, and then using this, there's a space to put all the keys, and then once you put all of them, it just decoded the secret on the screen.
Got it.
That's it.
So basically, you take this algorithm, you take a thing that you want to be secret, let's say a secret file, a PDF file, and you use an algorithm to split up a key that needs to be used to recreate that file. And then you can give those keys to your friends. And then all of them, or a certain number of them, so like 5 out of 7 of them, up to you, have to go and actually recreate that secret key by combining the little parts that they've gotten. Is that correct?
Yeah. Highly recommend the Wikipedia page for the Shamir shared secret for more details. It's very easy to understand. And yeah.
I'm actually going to put this into the video description, and I'll throw it in here. Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. Davi also created Floaterizer, which is a notary app, so sort of like proof of existence, where the data, the hash, or the proof of a document gets sent to the blockchain. And then we have some more stuff here, like Flowcard, which is a DApp that shows you kind of like a little business card that lives on the blockchain, and World Mood, which is a survey site that kind of evaluates how everyone in the world is feeling. We have some historic apps. This was a Valentine's Day app that you could kind of go in and write a love note to someone on the blockchain, and it'll always live. So actually this website is down, but if you search through some of the history of the blockchain and you search for the eternal love on the blockchain, you can see love notes from, I think, 2015 that still exists on the blockchain, and as long as Flow exists and there are nodes running, those will always be there. So it's kind of like etching carving into a tree or a rock or something like that. Yeah, so then we have a few more apps that are from Ranchi Mall, like X Certify, which is like a certificate, college degree certificate certification app. I believe that this was integrated with .NET. And then we have Flow Rate, which is sort of like a rating system. So it's like a generic rating system for anything, basically. And these are all on GitHub, so you can probably click through here to learn more about them. I'm going to put this link also in the chat so people can follow along if they're interested. And there are more apps that aren't listed on this page that are under construction. But that's a general overview of Flow and OIP. So remember, OIP is basically our building block for data on the blockchain and what we're doing with it. So we're going to go ahead and go through this token-controlled content access demo, which OIP just released a few weeks ago. Currently unlisted, but we were going to play it. I haven't seen this yet, so let's see what it is. We're going to talk about it. What's going on here?
This is the token-controlled content access demo using Open Index Protocol. First, the user sets preferences for the maximum amount they want to autopay for each type of media.
Okay, so let's go through this a little bit. Autopay means when you're on a page that has some OIP content, let's say a video, your browser is going to automatically pay for the content that you're viewing after you get like a confirmation window. So you have something like a wallet. Here you can see the wallet has about $8 worth of Flow in it. And this screen is for a content creator who's choosing, okay, I want to auto pay this much or this much.
Note that we've set the max for video to 30 tokens. In this demo, prices are set in Flow tokens, but other tokens and fiat can also be used. So now we'll switch over to the Explorer. This video says autopay because the price for the video is less than the autopay maximum threshold, but this video displays its price because it's more than the autopay maximum threshold.
I was actually wrong about that in the previous screen. So this is actually for a viewer. So let's say this is like a YouTube and you're scrolling through and you can see these videos. You can set the maximum amount that you want to auto pay for a video. So this one is more than 30, which was set in that previous menu. So it's going to tell you, hey, you're not going to be able to play this video without a confirmation because it's more than the 30 flow that you set as your maximum amount. But this one will auto pay, so it's like, okay, it's 25, so it's less than the 30. It's just going to go ahead without a confirmation. So you have kind of a seamless experience. Yeah, that's what's going on here. So you can imagine this screen as like a YouTube with like a little bit of debug information here on the side, and this is explaining how exactly autopay works.
So we click autopay, the payment is sent, and on the red box there you can see the wallet balance go down when the payment is sent. The video starts playing automatically. We will return now to the Explorer view again to briefly look at the access terms. A video or other piece of content can have unique access terms like pay-per-view, subscriptions, rentals, and purchases. Since this video was purchased, the user can watch it again without spending more tokens.
Speaking out about artificial intelligence taking over.
Cool. So that's a new feature that's coming to OIP, which is going to make the user experience a little bit better. So if you build an app on OIP, you get all of the software for free because it's open source. And anyone's content that has an autopay flag on it will be able to be played in this way on your app. So if you build, let's say, a social network or you build a YouTube based on OIP, you're going to have this feature now. This is kind of a new thing that's been developed recently. So that's pretty cool.
So Joey, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So say I created a website that was going to show Terminator, fan fiction and videos, just like what we're looking at right there. And I had all these videos. Would the users need to have Flow and Flow wallets to interact, or how will that work? How will the people coming to my site be able to watch these videos?
Great question. So the wallet is actually a multi-wallet. So it has Bitcoin, Flow, Litecoin, and Ravencoin, I'm pretty sure. So you can use a number of different cryptocurrencies that are currently supported by the wallet. In addition to that, we did have a Coinbase payment processor module loaded up into OIP. I'm not sure if we're still using Coinbase, but I do know that there is a plan to be able to use fiat through Stripe or Coinbase or something like that, that basically pays you as the site owner in dollars, and then there will be a way to convert that into cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, and then ultimately the flow miners will get paid. So yeah, that's already been thought of. We've got the support in the wallet already for Bitcoin and other coins, and yeah, having a fiat gateway is also something that's been part of this for a long time and should be possible on the launch.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Cool. All right. So moving on, we have a podcast that actually Amy, who was just talking in that video, and Devin, the co-founder of the Open Index Protocol, were on in the UAE Tech Podcast. And this is through John Lillywhite, who is one of the guys working on Al-bawaba. And we're on Al-bawaba right now, which is a news site.
So, quick correction, sorry to say, he's actually a journalist working with Al-bawaba. So, like, he's essentially just relays a lot of their ongoings.
Got it. Yeah, so John's working with them. He's a big proponent of OIP and is working with us to kind of bring that technology to their news site. Martin, did you want to go a little bit into the background of Al-bawaba and what's going on over there?
In a limited sense, yeah, I don't know too much about them other than the fact that they are a news, a journalist group news source in the Middle East. So they essentially, talk about all kinds of things that are happening. They also have like a business branch where they talk about like business dealings in the United Arab Emirates. And they've been very interested in blockchain as of recent. Well, not really recent, but the last couple of years. And they've been, pretty supportive of OIP and all the integrations for Flow. So that's really all I know about them.
Cool. Yeah, so last week we went over a little bit on how Al-bawaba is integrating OIP into their news site. So basically any piece of content that they put out on their website will be loaded into OIP. So the plain text and images and stuff will be stored somewhere like on IPFS or another decentralized cloud storage. And the metadata, such as the publish date, who created it, the author, and the signature, the digital signature that proves it was created by this author on this website, that'll all live on OIP. And the advantage of that is that everyone can see when it was created. So all that information is in the blockchain. It's timestamped verifiably. And also it's aggregated with John's other work. And all of it is open source. So anyone can create sort of like a front end to see, where do I find this? Okay, here's the link. Who created it? Oh, this is this guy. What else did he create? And on the blockchain, everything else John had created is listed, and no one owns that index. So you can create this using the open source tool without any restrictions. So it's kind of like a permissionless index. So let's go over what Devin and Amy talked about a little bit here. So the Open Index Protocol is an open source spec for allowing decentralized peer-to-peer data publishing, file distribution, and the facilitation of micropayments. So we just saw that in the previous video that we're doing facilitation of micropayments using the Flow blockchain. And Alexandria Labs is building on OIP. So these guys are out in San Diego. They're working on this software, and this is what they're doing with it. OIP proposes an open index which the world's knowledge and much of the world's networks are available on trustless and decentralized systems. All of us have access to the library cataloger index. So that's pretty much what OIP is. And I know, Channing, you listened to the podcast actually, and they went over a little bit of the history of OIP, how they came to realize the need for it. What else was really talked about on this podcast so that we know before going into it?
Oh gosh, It was I watched it a while ago, but I would say that they're really just kind of going through and explaining uh, how OIP kind of allows for anybody to post their address, like of where their data is stored as an index. They reference the card catalog at the library. Um, and it was that's kind of a good analogy for what OIP does. So if you think about the internet, there's all this data out there, and you all will know more about this than I will. But it's there. I believe there's like a tag. There's like an ID, a DID for each piece of data, and that's all regulated by a centralized body. But what OIP wants to do is allow for everybody to essentially put all their like a tag of where their content can be referenced to. So then, if you have an open version of that, then anybody can look into the card catalog, and then that'll point you to where you need to go in the decentralized Web3 internet. And so no one will control the catalog or the index, and so that was my understanding. The video is worth a watch. They also talk about how they came to come up with this idea, and it's just interesting if you want to know more about the history of this idea of a decentralized index. Definitely check out this video.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's very interesting, the history behind OIP, and how the idea came to fruition, and how we learned that it could be applied to so many different places, like Caltech, like the state of Wyoming, and like Al-bawaba. I know that they also talk a little bit about the plan for Alexandria in 2020. We'll talk about that in a minute. But also they talked about Trinity, which is a mining facilitation application that is going to be live probably by the end of the year. That's going to be really cool because people need to be incentivized to mine on Flow. One of the big things about Bitcoin is that there's a debate over whether or not, when the block reward goes down really low and miners aren't incentivized through the subsidy anymore, what's going to happen to the network? Are people going to stop mining? Are they going to jump to a different network? What's going to happen? Are the fees going to be enough to replace that? Is the block size high enough that enough transactions will be in each block to facilitate the amount of fees that are needed to sustain the miners who are running computers to build the network? So that's something that we were thinking a lot about at OIP and on the Flow dev team, which is, how do we facilitate people to mine? How do we make it clear to them that it's advantageous to mine? And what do we do to make sure that the microtransactions that are happening on the network sustain the miners? And all of that's being solved kind of by this Trinity project, which is essentially a mining interface. Right now we have, I think, about 10 or 11 mining pools that are mining Flow. I think everyone should be connected who's interested in mining to what's going on in the mining space on Flow, because it's going to get very interesting if a lot of these apps start using OIP and start having these micropayments go through it. The miners are going to make a lot of money if one app happens to be really big and a lot of finance and transactions are going through there. So yeah, watch out for Trinity. I think they talk about it a little bit on this podcast. I'm going to put the link here in the chat. And yeah, just take a look.
Yep. Joey, should we mention that that Flow is a script algo coin, and that we use a special type of miner, and so just for a current market status, that right now there's like a glut of these miners out there on the market. So if you want to go out and find them, it's the L3, the L3 Plus, and the L3 Plus Plus are the current miners that people use to mine Flow, and they're not making them anymore, and they're out there. And if and when you talk about there being this push for data through the chain, there's going to be a lag period, and they're all going to get snatched up. So if you're interested in it, you may want to go out and pick these things up while they're still cheap.
Yeah, for sure. So Script is historically an algorithm that was used back in 2010 or 2011 with Tenebricks, which was, I believe, the first script coin. And then there was Fairbricks, which was Charlie, I forgot his name, the creator of Litecoin. Charlie Lee's first altcoin, before he made Litecoin, which was eventually, I think, like the third big script coin, is now the biggest one. And Flow uses the same algorithm as Litecoin. So, yeah, that's what we're working with. If you look for a script miner and you buy one, you'll be able to mine Flow. You can also rent mining capacity. That's kind of what Trinity does, is it goes in and it automatically rents for you using a nice hash or the What's-a-Mine API. I think What's-a-Mine is the only one that's supported right now. But yeah, it's a whole thing, and it's pretty cool. So check it out. It's not released right now, but I think Devin talks a little bit about it on this podcast, so it's kind of like a teaser. So yeah, I wanted to go into a little bit about Alexandria, and I said that I would go into what's happening in 2020 with Alexandria. So let's talk about it real quick. Alexandria is the company based in San Diego. Alexandria Labs is the company based in San Diego that works on OIP and the Alexandria app. So on this video page on alexandria.io, we've got presentations about OIP. We've got presentations about all the apps that are built on OIP. We've also got Alexandria at the Decentralized Web Summit. We have some demos. I'm not going to play this whole demo right now, but basically Alexandria has a flagship app called the Alexandria Publisher or Alexandria Browser, which will be live on Alexandria.io hopefully by the end of this year. And what it is an implementation of OIP where you can go ahead and pay for songs, just like you saw in the previous video that we watched, and music and art and entertainment. All that stuff is going to be viewable in a browser. So I like to describe it as like a decentralized iTunes. It's sort of like a crossover between iTunes and YouTube. So yeah, this is really cool. You should check this out. Alexandria 2020 hashtags 2076. That's what's going on over there. And Amy was also on this podcast talking about Section 230, what it means for freedom of speech. Politics is super hyper polarized right now, but Section 230 does affect OIP and the concept of Alexandria quite heavily, so we're watching this pretty closely. So basically, Section 230 prevents social media companies from civil liability for the content posted on them, meaning if you're a content creator and you post on Twitter, Twitter is considered a neutral platform for anyone to post their content. And as long as they don't editorialize or take control over any of the content that their users are posting, they're given this 230 protection, which means there's no liability for them. They can't be sued for anything that their users post. Because it's like, you can't sue the post office for someone sending someone else hate mail. Because the post office is just a neutral carrier, and if we start censoring the post office, then we have a larger issue. We want to have neutral carriers in the world to get information across from person to person. But President Trump has been tweeting. Twitter starts editing or putting a block in front of his content, and some think that this is not editorializing, and some, like President Trump, think that it is, and they're trying to change this law. So if the law gets changed, then there's going to be vast implications for Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, anywhere where you post content, because if these platforms are not neutral carriers, then they're going to have a liability, and they're going to be responsible for what all of their users are saying. So, yeah, I see some comments in the chat. Totally is editorializing. I'm going to keep my my opinion to myself, but I can see an argument for both. By the way, original contents, thanks for joining in. We're actually doing a giveaway. If you have a Flow address, you can get 100 Flow if you post your address in chat. So I think I have it open here. I got a wallet with $14. So you're the first viewer that's participating in chat, so that's your right. You can go ahead and post your address if you've got one. But yeah, I know, Channing, you know a little bit about this more than I do. Do you want to talk about 230 and what it means?
Sure. So a part of 230 is that it carves out an exception from the liability of libel and defamation. And so one of the reasons that we want neutral carriers is that they when people start censoring speech. Well, hold on. Let me catch my thought. You put me on the spot here, Joey.
Sorry about that.
It's all good. So there's the carve out, the exception for these people. Shit.
So basically, if you're running a platform, you're not going to be sued. There's no way that you can be sued for any of the content that your users are posting, right?
Right.
And you don't have to do any searching. Like, you can do your best to remove the really bad stuff, like gore and etc. from your platform.
Right. Thank you for getting me back on track. So part of 230 is that it allows for these neutral carriers to censor out like obscene information without being sued by their users, right? For like limiting their freedom of speech. And I think so where Twitter is basically, their argument is that Trump's speech is obscene or incendiary, or they're making a value judgment about his speech that it's similar to some kind of objectionable content that they need to shield their users from. And the Supreme Court has historically held political speech to be like the most protected of any type of speech. And the basic premise is that if you're a universally hated person, you're the one that needs the most protection to be able to speak freely, and that society has a value added to it when someone who is universally loathed, they should still be able to speak freely, just as a check on maybe, heaven forbid that someone who everybody thinks is wrong is right. I mean, isn't that what happened with like Galileo and his other people? I'm not trying to say that Trump is Galileo. I'm just making a point that that there's a value to letting people speak freely. And so I think there's a gray area where Twitter is like pushing on that boundary of being able to label that, and that's what they're arguing over right now. But if Twitter weren't censoring anyone's speech, if it was just a purely open system, then they would have nothing to be concerned about with this. So I think going forward, what society wants is more speech, more freedom, and it's like we can all maturely sort through the information and hopefully figure out what's right on our own. We don't need someone to do that for us. But that's my opinion.
That's a really interesting point that you made about Galileo. It's kind of like Socrates, right? Where at the end of his life, he was kind of censored from speaking out. They thought he was like corrupting the people's minds. But it turns out he had a lot of interesting things to say as a philosopher. Oh, all right. Original content. You got your address in chat. You get 100 flow. Congratulations, man. Let's see. I'm gonna send some flow.
So yeah, I actually just wanted to add one thing to that. I think there's pros and cons to everything. This is sort of just my general philosophy in life. And for Section 230 specifically, it definitely benefits some people and it disbenefits others. And it depends sort of like what side of the coin you're on in that situation. So some of the pros, obviously, at least from what I understand, are that, as a private business, you should retain the right to, so long as you're a neutral carrier, of course, you're not really like biasing an opinion, but to, I guess you could say, redact content that isn't appropriate or for whatever reason violates a policy. On the other side, you also don't want that company or business, that private entity to, as a neutral carrier, impose a bias in terms of like political discussion. And so that's sort of what Channing was talking about with the gray area, that it's really tough to sort of distinguish one from the other because both sides can be argued, quite clearly in that sense. But I actually think that, blockchain and OIP and Flow introduces a very unique opportunity to sort of transfer from a situation where you only have like absolute private control versus like a federal authority over that private entity doing whatever business it does, but you have a public space in a sense where all information can be posted, and there's pros and cons to that, of course, but you have the private businesses that can essentially filter out what they want. So it's almost as if like people have the opportunity to say what they want to the forums and I guess you could say businesses that want to hear what they have to say. And then you have the businesses themselves that choose what they want to display. And I think that's the power of, OIP, this whole system that we're building, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I think OIP really fits in well here, right? If you build a decentralized network where all the content is shared and no one has any control over it, then you have a very 230 compatible app because there is no way to censor it. You can have on the front end a block list of content creators or matching words or anything that URLs, very simple block criteria, which will prevent you from seeing things that you don't want to see. And people can subscribe to that list from anyone that they want, right? So anyone on the network can subscribe to anyone else's list of blocked items. And that way you can have curation on the front end where people do their own curation, but at the core, the back end is all freedom of information. It's all 100% compatible with 230 because there isn't any way to stop the blockchain and a cryptocurrency system from being put out there. There's no way to censor it.
Yeah,
Actually,
go ahead, David.
All right.
Go ahead.
So I think that actually even opens up a possibility for companies to be specializing making this filter for different audiences. So you basically sign up for a company. So the platform, you go to a platform like Twitter, and instead of Twitter doing the editorial choices or the bans or whatever they want to do, they exempt themselves, and then the users sign up for different companies with different level of content that they want to actually see. So it's a different type of player in the system, but I think that can be a very interesting avenue.
Yeah.
So
using
using OIP, like say I were to spend a lot of time and curate this excellent playlist of content from the universe of all OIP content, and I did that work, and people liked it. Would I be able to collect some like value out of the transaction chain as a curator?
I think right now there isn't a curation incentivization platform. I think only if you're a platform that's publishing other people's videos. So as a platform, you can create that list and do that curation, and then you'll just have a competitive advantage over other people that are not curating as well, and people will be paying through your system, which means you'll get a good amount of the profits. But just being a curator, I don't think that we have a role for that right now, and it's a possibility. We could definitely do that.
So, I mean, would I have to like set up a website and drive traffic? I guess.
Yeah, right now, to be able to take advantage of the curation, to profit from being a curator, you'd have to set up a website and drive traffic. But I think we could, potentially, this is a feature that we could add. We could add a curation role where you don't have to set up a website and drive traffic. You just create basically a criteria, like a rule set for curation, an organization pattern that you can provide to other people, and if they subscribe to it, you get paid. That's definitely something that we could do in the protocol. There's no reason we can't do that.
We don't even need to actually go to the protocol to do that, to be honest. You can actually do that as it is right now. So basically, like, just brainstorming here, but one idea is I open a company, and then what I do, I basically curate things on the blockchain of Flow for you. So you come in and actually tell me, I want to subscribe for whatever you do. And then I make like a Chrome app extension or something, and I give you a public key or a private key for exchange for your money, and then when you put this thing on the extension, out of the sudden your curation works, and it can all and this can all work through the blockchain itself. Like basically, when you sign up, you basically issue a record on the blockchain, and then my system understands automatically that you pay this amount for this amount of time. So when your user is consuming information, the system automatically knows who it is. So there is not even exchange of private keys or anything like that. Oh, sorry, keys or anything like that. So I'm just to finish this point for what I'm saying is OIP is super flexible. You can do pretty much anything you want to do right now without changing the protocol, just because the way we set it up, and it's all on purpose. We spend an incredible amount of hours talking concepts and thinking like how can we make the most convincing and then flexible platform to support freedom of speech and content.
Yeah, that's the ultimate goal, for sure. And that flexibility is in part given to us by the fact that everything is open source and will always be free and open source software. So yeah, I mean, these are great points, and we could talk about this forever. And I'm kind of interested to see what's going to happen with 230, whether or not it's going to get ruled on, it's going to get removed, whether or not Twitter and Facebook are going to kind of lose some of their protection that they have. We'll see. That'll be an open opportunity for more open systems to be created.
Well, you know, it's interesting because Facebook has kind of taken the opposite tack. They have said that they're actually not going to get involved in political speech. So and they've been accused of having, you know, Zuckerberg's been accused of having cut some secret deal with the Trump administration. But I think they're just saying we're going to take a hands-off approach and make sure that we're not labeled like, you know, as a editor or a publisher there. So anyways.
Yeah, we'll see how each of the platforms react to this. Fiery Biscuit in chat just said, so in OIP, there still has to be a gatekeeper between the content and the consumers. Am I understanding it right? But in principle, there could be lots and lots of different curators to choose from. Yeah, that's 100% correct, Fiery Biscuit. So that is only because right now the internet is centralized around DNS. So someone has to create a website and display the content that's on OIP for the users. Theoretically, in the future, with the Alexandria app, I don't know if you joined in or if you had seen this earlier, but we do want to create something like Library, where they have a desktop app that pulls information from the decentralized web. So technically, there isn't anything that needs to be in between the content and the consumers. So, for example, if I'm a content creator, I can publish directly to the Alexandria app. That information goes to the networks of my choice, whether it's SIA Skynet or it's IPFS or it's YouTube. Wherever I want to upload my video, it's going out to the web, right? Everyone else that has the same app can view it directly from my PC if I'm running an IPFS or Skynet node, or from YouTube if that was uploaded to YouTube and, you know, the browser decides to pull it from YouTube. So right now, you do have to create a website to be able to view OIP information, but once we release the browser, there's nothing between users and content creators' content other than an ISP. And ISPs historically have been very neutral and aren't going to start censoring anytime soon, we think. So it'll be a pretty good way to directly communicate directly communicate content to users. By the way, Fiery's Biscuit, you're the second user in chat. We're giving away 100 Flow. If you've got a Flow wallet, post your address in chat, and you can get 100 Flow. I hope that answers your question too. Thanks for pointing that out. It's really, you really got the idea. And in principle, there could be lots and lots of different curators. Yeah, of course, anyone can be a curator. Anyone can be a front end for OIP. It's completely open, and users basically choose based on which front end they like the best or which curation model they like the best. Cool. All right. I didn't have much more to say on this. If you guys wanted to add anything, I did want to go a little bit into Decentraland and what's going on there.
Yeah, actually, just I wanted to say one quick thing. I love the analogy of a library, especially the way that Alexandria does it, like the Library of Alexandria in Greece, ancient Greece, if I'm correct with that. But yeah, it's almost as if like you have this huge repository of information, and you essentially choose which section you go to. I want a fiction book. I choose a fiction book from the fiction category, but I have the opportunity to choose any other category I want and go more into detail based off the content in that category.
Exactly. And it was in Egypt, I believe, the library. Although I have no idea. Maybe I should know
Uh,
this.
yeah, me too. I guess I should too.
But yeah, the historic example of the Library of Alexandria is it was the world's knowledge. Everything was held there, and it was burned down or it was destroyed. Or, it was basically a book burning. And Alexandria.io is based on the fact that, well, if you can decentralize that, make it open source, and get it out there to as many libraries as possible, make everyone's computer into a giant library, then it's going to be kind of hard to burn that down. So
Mhm.
that is.
So actually, you were right with Egypt, by the way.
Oh, you looked it up?
It is Egypt. Yeah,
We got a fact check live on air.
no problem.
Perfect. Cool. Thank you. I've been playing around with it, trying to figure it out. Yeah, no problem. We have stuff coming out pretty soon. If you go to flo.cash, you can see the apps that are built on OIP right now. And there's also openindexprotocol.com where you can see what's going on. Oh, Fire Biscuit has a Flow address. Cool. Let's give him 100 Flow. Let's just make sure that's right. Yep. Cool. I hope that weird character doesn't mess me up here. Great. Here's our transaction ID, Fiery Biscuit. You know what to do with that. Cool. So the last thing I wanted to get into was Decentraland. And we went into Decentraland last week and walked around a bit. If you're not familiar with Decentraland, it's a blockchain-based 3D world, which you can go into if you have a VR headset. You can kind of like walk around as if it's like a virtual reality. But if you don't have one, you can just open up your browser and you can log right in and walk around. And the concept behind Decentraland here is that it's like a 3D game world where instead of a company owning the entire world, it's owned by the network. So anyone can buy shares or they can buy like Decentraland tokens, and that gives them some rights. So they can buy land with it, they can sell the land, they can build whatever they want. There's some like basic building blocks that you get, like a sidewalk, let's say, or like a building. You get some flowers, but you could also import your own. So one of our community members, Bradley, built the decentralized library of Alexandria in Decentraland. You can go to his land and walk around. It's pretty cool. You have this like little open index protocol logo. This is a video of Amy talking about OIP, and it's just on the wall. If you click on it, it'll start going around. And I just wanted to mention that we're kind of looking into this because it's a cool concept of putting some digital stuff in a decentralized system so that you can actually walk around and see it. Just kind of stay a little bit forward thinking about what we're doing with OIP and how we're integrating into other mediums of content creation and content consumption.
Yeah.
What if we added a wall where anybody who posted to OIP, their content would flow onto that wall? It could be like a public spam board where people could fill it up into Decentraland.
That's an idea that we've been playing around with. Like, how do we interface? Like, do we make a website where people can like post content?
Somebody probably need to curate that.
Yeah, there has to be some interface, but that'd be really cool, right? Like, we just have a public board where every day new video gets uploaded or new images there, and like, it'd be. I mean, I'm a gamer, so if I was playing an MMO and I knew there was a place where there's just like different user-generated content happening, like on a wall every day. Maybe I'd stop by and see like, oh, what's new today, or what have they done. Hopefully these guys add payments. I mean, I would assume that they're going to add payments here. It's like a natural thing for a cryptocurrency project to add payments. So yeah, maybe we can hook OIP into their payment system, because our content is sometimes paid for. Sometimes content creators specify that you have to pay for their content. That'd be really cool. I got a question in chat. We heard about these things before. Could one of you guys give us a sneak peek of the next generation apps coming up on Flow in the next, say, 2 years? That's a great question. One of the things that I've been thinking about recently is creating a social network on top of Flow. And if you think about the history of Flow, the first block was mined with a news article about Saudi Arabia banning Skype and WhatsApp. And I think Flow in the metadata field is really well suited for a social network or communications app. So two things that I'm thinking about and have been kind of on the back burner for a long time, but maybe we'll explore in the future in the next 2 years. The first is a decentralized encrypted chat where you have nodes that are basically Flow nodes that you can find on the internet and then chat with them through a third encrypted channel. Not like you don't put your encrypted information on the blockchain, but you find other nodes through the Flow chain, and using their public key, you communicate with them. Sort of like a bit message, but with extra indexing abilities, right? With BitMEX, sorry, with not BitMEX, that's an exchange. With BitMessage, you have to know the other person's public key. You have to have a third channel where like you communicate with them to know what their public key is. But with Flow and OIP, you have an index. You can have like chat rooms listed. You can have like content on this chat. There's a whole array of new features that you can add with OIP to a decentralized encrypted chat. And that's something we've been thinking about. We've also been thinking about social network. I know that there's a new social network called Parler, supposed to be a free speech network, but we were just talking about this a little bit the other day, where if you're on Parler and you sign up for this social network, you actually have to provide your phone number, and it's like the worst possible security, like two-factor authentication to use your SIM card basically as authentication to log into a mobile app. So, and you have to log in, which is like, come on, it's 2020. I don't want to have to log into websites anymore. I want to control my own login. So what we want to do is make a decentralized social network. And just like you log into this wallet app by providing your mnemonic, your 12-word phrase, kind of like a Bitcoin login thing, we want to have a social network where you log in using your mnemonic. And you control your user and your password, and everything is on the blockchain. So yeah, social network is definitely very viable for Flow.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think sort of within like the social media side of things, Davey has been working on a wonderful project called DD People, which it's not really the same thing, but that's another application that Davey, if you want to talk about it, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, someone in chat actually just said identity management on client side is one of the most exciting things about blockchain. It needs a good UI. And we actually we have some work. Can I show it on the stream? Like, what's the URL to go to DD People? Davi?
people.oip.io.
Cool. I'll let you do cool, it loaded up. Yeah, so this is actually an OIP app. This answers both FlowLover66 and Fiery Biscuits question at once. So you're really killing two birds with one stone here. This is an app that's coming out that we haven't really talked about at all, and it should be done within the next 2 years. And it is an identity management piece of software. So Davi, I'll let you go ahead. Take it away.
Yeah, sure. So basically, like it's probably a subject for the entire podcast. But the idea here is to it's to simplify how to actually register yourself in the systems of Flow, basically. So DD People is just one of the almost Okay, let's backtrack. So we built something that calls DDX, and the X goes for anything. So DD stands for distributed databases. And that's pretty much what we are working on. So DD people is one of instances of DDX that deals with people. If you actually go, Joey, you can go to ddem.caltech.edu.
I'm there.
And Caltech, are you? My internet is fumbling.
Oh, it's fine. Yeah, it loaded up. There's a
So
delay on the
this-
stream, actually. It's usually 10-15 seconds.
Okay, so basically, like, don't click in any of those because we have a bug. But yeah, if you go up, so this is just another instance of the of another DDX. This is what it does is basically collect, like, you see these numbers here on these individual records. Those are like 7,000 micrographs of a particular sample of electron that we took in our lab at Caltech. So this is the distributed database of electron micrographs. It uses pretty much exactly the same software that DD people does. And if you put sample.ddem.caltech.edu, can you go there, Joey?
What happens? What the sample you said?
It just, yes, sample.
Okay. That was weird.
Oh, samples, sorry, with an S. I never know if it's plural or not.
It's not. It worked. The browser actually put
Oh, okay,
sample
good.
before HTTP. I don't know why. That was really weird. Anyway, I'm there.
So you see, this is another instance of DDX, but this is actually about the samples that we have using for to make the tomograms. So if you click on one of those, you're gonna break it. Don't click it because it's the same bug that the other one is working. But when you click at this, when we fix this bug, you'll be able to see a real link who prepared the samples, for example, and that is a record on the DD people, and they all together on the OIP. So it basically, like, it's an interconnected network of distributed database that communicate with each other, and they basically reference each other. So, and you can build gateways, which is like each one of these web pages is a different gateway for a particular type of record, or you can build gateways that will collect all of them together. So this is what we think that's going to be the next generation of public databases. Is one of the things that Devon always says, Amy too, that there's no public space on the internet. Well, there wasn't. We are building DDX specifically for this type of thing. So it should take less than a couple of hours for you to build a DD postal stamps, where everyone that has a flow address and flow, they can post records about their postal stamps, and all collectors can join in and share what they have and trade and do whatever they want in the platform. So all of this is basically ready. We're just tweaking the user interface, as the Fire Biscuit said. We are trying to make this as simple as possible. You're going to have a similar login as the wallet on OIP to actually get into your records, and that's that. Was that too long? I hope that explains.
So let me ask you a question. Basically, you're saying if you post a sample of methane seep, I don't know what methane seep sediment is, but if you post this onto DDEM, right, and then you tag it, basically, you include your DD people ID, then those two records are going to be linked through the system.
Yes. So yeah, right now we have a problem with the with some old people record, but click on one of the people records, any one of those. You see, I built this with Martin helped a little bit, so those are all Brazilian authors.
Cool.
Because might as well. So you see, you have a description. All of this information, every single thing you see on the right side, is on OIP, is on the blockchain. It's there encoded using protobuf. The picture is on IPFS, and the IPFS address for the picture is on the blockchain. So there's no database to serve this, nothing.
Right.
It's all about all on the internet, all on the blockchain. But you see, these fields, description, place of birth, in or and where, and like what are the institutions that hold that sample. All of those are links to this page. You see, the URL of this web page is like a -record and that's the transaction code where it is. So it basically is a resolver of a transaction IDs for records of DD people using people template on OIP. And that's something that we should talk about next time, is like, what is the concept of like templates on OIP and how easy it is to actually work if you're not a tech person.
It's a good idea. I know that I started creating a template explorer for OIP.
Yeah, you can always go to alexandria.ip.io. Yeah, that's the metadata in protobuf for that record.
What I love about this too is...
Anyways, if you go to like alexandria.oip.io, you can actually see all the templates in there. I think so.
Yeah, so the thing that I love about this so much, and this is sort of like a future-perspective, way of looking at this, but right now you have a lot of private companies that have their own databases, and the problem with that is if you're trying to find a certain topic of information, you have to filter manually through all these different websites, and sometimes it's almost nearly impossible to find the information that you want. Something like this, I think, is very powerful, especially in the case of like samples, like Davey was talking about, where you can literally just apply an OIP filter, a template, and it'll scrub the entire blockchain with using the OIP records, and you can just see everything that was posted under that category. So it's a very efficient way of finding the information that you need when you need it, rather than having to look through like 1,000 different websites that might have it.
Joey, it's on the top right where it's written records. There is a thing. That is a way to actually select templates.
Oh, look at that! Very cool.
Yeah, so that's exactly right, Martin. There is this concept we call hierarchical records. I think that's the name. I presented this a little too long ago, but it's a concept that we built this trying to fight the idea that in a decentralized, uncoordinated system, people will diverge into what they define metadata for. And the problem is it becomes like incompatible database. For example, if someone is building a database of samples, they put the fields that they want, and then another person in a different part of the world makes the same database for samples as well, but they use different types of like fields, so they don't agree on everything because somebody needs to put the temperature, somebody doesn't want to put the temperature because they want to put, I don't know, the latitude and longitude of where the sample came out. So, however, everybody agrees on something, and that is the key concept here. So we built the OIP templates in a way that they build on top of each other. So these two labs can come out and agree on a basic template that they share with the fields that they share between the two databases and build new templates for their own labs. So then when you search for DD samples in general, you still see their data in there, but you don't see their particular records. In their particular distributed database, they just see their records that complies to them. But if they go to a step down on it, and that's why we call hierarchical, then you can see the samples of everybody else. I think that's a very, very interesting idea that we want to see how distributed systems will play out with it.
Yeah, I think an important note to make too here is that these templates are fully customizable, meaning that you don't really have any limits in terms of like what you're allowed to or what you want to put into these templates. So like with the DD database, at the end of the day, it can literally just be anything you can think of.
Yeah, and also once you build the when you register the template, then you don't need to actually fill up every single field when you're posting a record, and that is the key aspect for adoption, because normally people want to just make a mark that actually they have a sample, but they are not into actually putting all the information right now, so they can just post like, this is a sample, I own it, and it looks like this, instead of putting every single detail that they want to. So it's very powerful, and we are adding in the future the ability to have editing in these records. So basically, they work as like patches, as in programming. So basically, you can't go back on the blockchain, but you can issue a differential part of the old record and how it should look like now, and then the OIP protocol understands this evolution of the record with all the different patches, with all the edits. And that is a built-in version control for records. It's very powerful.
Yeah, I like that. That's pretty cool.
Davi, you're gonna have to teach a class
Yeah,
on that.
I think I'm done. Sorry. Yeah. I think we need to actually just take like a day, and I have slides, and we can go slow, but it's a very powerful concept, and I'm very excited for it.
Cool. Yeah, it's really awesome. I like how you can kind of like select multiple templates here and publish a template that's like an extension of multiple different ones. This is really cool, and I can see a lot of really great stuff being built on top of this. Thanks.
Yeah, the flexibility allows for creativity.
Yeah. All right. I mean, that pretty much wraps it up, guys. We've been on, I think, for about an hour now. And we've been through, that was kind of the last thing that we wanted to go over, was Decentraland and how to build on top of OIP. So, and yeah, everyone, thanks for joining into chat. Everybody that's on the call, thank you for joining me and helping explain what's going on.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was really fun.
Awesome.
And we'll see you all next week.
Yeah,
absolutely next week.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Cool. See you guys.